We want to streamline our country. We want to streamline, because you know why? Because we want our country to survive and thrive. And we're finding billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. Billions, and I mean numbers like you wouldn't believe. And we haven't even started yet.
That was President Trump in February speaking about employee firings and spending cuts in federal agencies, initiated by the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE. One of his campaign promises was to get rid of what he described as waste and fraud in government to save money. So we did some digging to see if that's happened. A CBS News analysis of daily financial reports from the Treasury Department found spending is actually up. In fact, the data shows the federal government has spent at least $200 billion more during President Trump's first 100 days compared to the same time period in 2024. John Kelly joins us now. He's the vice president of data journalism here at CBS News and gathered most of the data we found on the government spending. So, John, what's behind this increase?
Thanks, Lindsay. The driving factors are things that have been long-term issues for federal spending for decades. The vast majority of the increase is tied up in increased spending in Social Security payments, Medicare, the prescription drug program, the military and veterans benefits, and probably the biggest area is in paying down the debt, paying interest on Treasury bonds and securities. And that amount has really been exponentially growing each year. It's up about $30 billion over this same time period a year ago, and it's more than doubled in just 3 years.
So you sort of answered it, but how does government spending during President Trump's first 100 days compare to other recent administrations? What are you taking away from this data?
Yeah, for the past three presidential administrations, this is among the highest. The only first year of a term where more money was spent by the federal government during this time period was in 2021. And that was because primarily driven by the trillions of dollars that were being invested by the government in COVID emergency relief for people and businesses, and the government's response to that pandemic. The spending was a little bit higher than this year. The spending so far this year, from January 20th, when the president took office, until yesterday, is higher than the spending in 9 of the last 10 years to date, for this time period.
How much money has DOGE saved?
Well, that's a great question. DOGE has published on this website this accounting that they say is their attempt at transparency, that they've saved $160 billion. One of the things that we've done is analyze that data line by line, and they have itemized less than 40% of that. And so it becomes a little bit difficult to tell whether all of those savings, how you would account for those. And we've had some reporting, even here at CBS News and other media have reported about errors in that data, and Elon Musk has acknowledged some errors in that. But if we take it at face value that it's been a savings of $160 billion, one way to kind of put that in perspective is to think about it in terms of the overall spending of the government and how small of a number it is. It's $160 billion, but when you would compare that to, say, the average spending in a typical year over the last 5 years, it's about 2%. And so if we thought about that in the way that like a family would pay its bills, if I had $10,000 in monthly expenses for my family, that would be the equivalent of about $200 of trimming. And so there's a lot to be done, and it's going to require, as Major talked about earlier, getting into this legislative phase. If the president and the administration are serious about this, they're going to need Congress's help to take on some of those areas like Social Security and Medicare that are going to require a lot of work, because otherwise most of the cutting that DOGE is doing so far is in what I would consider the sort of smaller parts of the budget.
John Kelly, we appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thanks.